Hey everyone, good evening. I'm Darrell Winninger, the meteorologist at Central Oregon Daily News. And across the high desert, we are sitting under plenty of sunshine. It is still chilly and it has been breezy, even gusty across Central Oregon today. Now, when we look across the high desert, what we see from Hampton Butte all the way to Hoodoo at the top of Ed, gorgeous views. And under this sunshine, there are a few clouds. Now, winds are already starting to taper off, but it's unseasonably cool across the high desert. Now, through the next couple of days, we settle into a big warming trend that brings us from the teens and 20s to start the day tomorrow all the way into the 70s by the afternoon, both Saturday and Sunday. Well, 60s and 70s Saturday, low 70s Sunday and Monday. So let's get right into it. Across the high desert, we have been looking at that sunshine, and we didn't get too much in the way of snow in our lower elevations. Got a couple of pictures from a few folks who got maybe an inch or two in some of our higher elevations. So we're talking in Sun River. We had some snow showers across much of the high desert and a few slick roads to start the day, but the real snow was in the mountains. And from the beginning, when we were talking about this system last week, we were saying how this is going to be a Cascades event, and in the lower elevations, maybe some slick roads. Look at this. Just in the last 24 hours or so, we had 8 inches up at Bachelor and 5 inches at Hoodoo, but when we look at event totals, it's more like 20 inches for both Bachelor and Hoodoo. Hoodoo is right at that St. Anne Pass level. That's why we're still talking about that. Now, Meadows, we didn't get any reports from there because they are closed, but Timberline for the event, 15 inches, putting it at 89. So when it comes to Friday's powder prognosis, we're not looking at any new snow tonight, and through the day tomorrow, some PM clouds are expected, but going from cold to that warming trend. And on the other side of the Cascades, in the valley, that's where we have a couple of frost advisories and freeze warnings. But for Central Oregon, just know we're falling into the 20s with some teens tonight, and then the warming trend begins. So at pass level, we have been getting quite a bit of melting today. For some of the roads a little bit damp, but for the most part not too bad. Looks like great driving conditions. And for the rest of Central Oregon, it's awesome. It's just a little on the chilly side, and winds have been breezy, cutting that temperature a little bit more. Now with satellite and radar, we see that whole system from yesterday is pushing further off to the east and the southeast, and this is the remnants of, or the lingering moisture from that cold front that pushed through Wednesday morning. And it's still bringing some of that same snow, off and on snow shower, to parts of Idaho, Montana, even getting over into Wyoming, and parts of eastern Oregon are still getting a little bit of precipitation. But for the high desert, we are dry, and we're staying that way through the next several days. So when we look at the bigger picture with infrared satellite imagery, what we were just looking at, that's visible and infrared imagery, and it had some radar on it, but this is just infrared, and it shows where those hit and miss snow showers are still impacting parts of eastern Oregon and everything off to the east of us. But what we're also tracking is this ridge of high pressure that's just offshore. That builds into the Pacific Northwest. And under sunshine, we are looking at this next warming trend. And that warming trend comes with that high pressure. And that high pressure is actually going to be what we refer to as a blocking high. And it's going to keep this next system out of the Pacific Northwest until we get further into next week. And that high starts to flatten, starts to weaken. Outside of that, when it comes to water vapor imagery, we do have some dry air sitting over the high desert, and that dry air stays with us tonight with tapering winds, very little cloud cover, dry air. Temperatures are going to get a little colder than they typically would reach, so we're talking 20s with some teens. By Friday, we're looking at tons of sunshine, few light clouds, and no rain in sight. By Saturday, still dry, getting a little breezy at times during the afternoon. So as we progress through this weekend, we're going to notice more clouds each day. Winds picking up each afternoon. By Sunday, maybe a couple of sprinkles. That next system really holds off until next week. So when it comes to relative humidity, it's moderate to dry, not too bad. And temperatures in the last 24 hours topped out in the 40s and 50s. As of right now, this evening, 5:40 p.m., we're seeing 40s with a few 30s and 52 degrees in Warm Springs. So even with that, we're still sitting between 4 and 9 degrees warmer than it was 24 hours ago. By tomorrow, we warm up even more. So we're going from the 20s with a few teens on Friday to wrapping up the work week in the 50s with a few 60s. And this is just continuing that warming trend that I was talking about. It's already started. We're already sitting a little bit above where we were yesterday, but by Friday, 50s and 60s after a cold start. Tons of sunshine and nice. By Saturday, very nice. Through the 60s, reaching into the 70s, and no precipitation in sight. In fact, by Sunday, those showers are still closer to the coastline and offshore, and temperatures are still well above average for this time of the year. So between now and Sunday at 11 p.m., we're dry. Most of the precipitation stays over the Pacific Ocean, a little bit closer to the coastline, but not for everybody over there. So when it comes to the temperature trend, that average high temperature, 60 degrees, we're going to be 10 to 12 degrees above that by the time we get to Sunday and Monday, and then the rain starts to roll in. I did have some showers on Monday, and that we're talking a few PM showers, maybe some sprinkles, and then it really starts to roll in Tuesday and Wednesday. So let's time that out, because here through the overnight hours and Friday, we stay mostly clear, calm, and cool. And then by Friday, the warming trend really takes shape. By Saturday, we're through the 60s, reaching into the 70s, and it's really not even going to be until early next week that we start to see that change up. So let's switch gears just a little bit. This is the GFS. This is a long-range forecast model, and this forecast model really helps us paint a picture of what's going to happen later in the 7-day planner. It's not high resolution, and sometimes it skips a few frames, but by Monday, it shows that a few sprinkles through the Cascades are going to be possible. By Tuesday, that's when showers start to roll through the high desert. And notice those brighter colors, those oranges, those reds. That's indicative of the potential for some lightning. Now, this is still too far out to call for a chance of thunderstorms, but it could happen. And then through Wednesday, much the same. And it's really not going to be until Thursday that we really start to clear out from this next system. So we aren't looking at any precipitation between now and Saturday at 11 p.m. It's going to be dry. After that, however, that's when rain chances pick up. Mostly Tuesday and Wednesday, a few showers before that. But look at this. We are looking at 4+ inches through the Cascades, at Pine Mountain, the Newberry Caldera, through the Ochocos, maybe the Maury Mountains getting a little bit of snow too. So not just the Cascades like this last system. And for much of the high desert today, it has been gusty at times. Those winds not really tapering off until after sunset. And current wind speeds are mostly between 5 and 15 miles per hour, just gusting up to 20. And so those tapering winds are expected tonight. We come back down to a gentle breeze. A light breeze is expected Friday. And then by Saturday, a little breezy at times. And with that, the warming trend really takes hold, bringing us well into the 60s with some 70s. So for tonight, expect 20s, some teens out there. By Friday, we're looking at 50s with some 60s, and then into the 70s Sunday and Monday. So Friday and Saturday, we have even more warming, and by Sunday and Monday, the warming trend slows down, but it peaks, and that's when we're going to be topping out in the lower 70s for many, just not quite everybody. Now, by Monday, this forecast does have a chance of some sprinkles during the afternoon. That's just a chance. A better chance of precipitation holds off until Tuesday and Wednesday. This next system could bring a little mountain snow, just not too much. And then by Wednesday and Thursday, we're back to near average for this time of the year. Lows follow that same roller coaster pattern. And we're mostly looking at 30s and 40s across the high desert flows. So when it comes to your weather headlines for this Thursday, April the 16th, clearing and calming tonight. By Friday, sunshine and warming, and it's going to be a pleasant weekend with 60s and 70s in store for Central Oregon. And winds could become a little breezy at times by this weekend, but as of right now, no precipitation in sight. That is the latest in weather. Join us tonight on Central Oregon Daily News. We'll have the latest headlines and your most reliable forecast. See you then.